All right. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. So here we go. Audio good, video good at this point.
Yeah, you're good to go, guys. We can hear you.
You can hear me okay?
As long as you stay on that phone, we'll be good to go.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for your patience. I think we're all struggling with Zoom meetings, and here we are giving our first Zoom keynote, so we apologize. Thank you to Kenny Gould and the entire crew at Hop Culture for putting this event together. We wish we were with you in person, but we're glad to have you join us here at our Stove Brewery. For those of you who don't know much about the history of The Alchemist, I'm going to give you a brief, very brief overview of our history and how we ended up here today. John and I started The Alchemist as a 60-seat brew pub in the village of Waterbury in 2003. The day after we opened, we had $200 in the bank, we had 12 new employees, and we found out we were going to have a baby. Of course, we had no health insurance. Thankfully, everything worked out, and 8 years later, we opened up our first production brewery right up the road from our pub in the town of Waterbury. Ironically, the night before our first cans rolled off the line of our new canning line in Waterbury, our brew pub was totally destroyed by tropical storm Irene flooding. Thankfully, everything worked out. Heady Topper really took off, and shortly thereafter, we began planning this state-of-the-art brewery here in Stowe, Vermont. We opened our visitor center here in 2016, and today we have 42 salaried employees. We still run 2 breweries at full production. We make all of our Heady Topper in Waterbury, and we make Focal Banger and our specialties here, and we are a certified B Corp. As a certified B Corp, we measure our success not just by profit, but also our investments in people and planet. That's the triple bottom line: people, profits, and planet. Today, we are here to talk about our planet and the investments we have made, both financially and our human investments, to minimize our impact on the environment. But first, I can't stress enough the importance of a healthy environment, not just for our brewery and our business, but for our industry as a whole. The 3 main ingredients we use to make beer, clean water, malt, and hops, are all threatened by drastic weather caused by climate change. And also, we witnessed firsthand the devastating effects of drastic weather when we lost our pub 9 years ago. Today, John is going to lead us through a tour of the brewery, where he's going to delve into the water management and reduction practices we have in place, our clean water practices, and also our solar initiatives. Then we will open things up for Q&A. Again, thanks to everyone for your patience, and bear with me as we go through our first Zoom tour ever. Thank you.
Hey, all right. Thanks, everybody. Again, I'm going to reiterate what Jen said there. Kenny, everybody that we've been working with on this, thank you so much. These are crazy times, and this is a first that everybody's putting together a festival like this. So everybody that is watching, thank you so much for putting up with us. We do have limited time, so I'm just going to get started. Glenn is going to follow me along here. We're just going to move around. So, I'm going to kind of treat this as though I would be doing a tour for you. The first thing I want to talk about is the education that we try to do for everybody that walks through this brewery. From the moment you walk in, we have information about our water, about the environment, about our ingredients, and how important they are to all of us and to our industry in general. So first and foremost, education is such a tremendous part of what we do here. Of course, we focus on the details, but we need to let people know what we do here, and that's part of what we're doing today. So as we walk through here, you're going to see, if you've never been here at The Alchemist before, our big, beautiful building that we've created here. So we really put our mind to energy efficiency. We put our mind to a beautiful workspace for our employees, because really when you start talking about sustainability, you're talking about keeping a sustainable building, our ingredients, our employee relations, everything that goes into this. So first and foremost, we wanted our employees to walk into this place and be inspired. The bright windows, the natural light saves us energy. We have less lighting bills. Our HVAC system is state of the art that we have hanging up on the ceiling. It is all computer controlled to maximize efficiency and to minimize waste. We can program that for when people are in the building and when they're not in the building, and it will adapt to that. So come on with me. We're going to come downstairs. So there's a lot to go over here. First, I'm going to tell you about what we do to keep to a bare minimum what actually leaves this building and goes into a dumpster. Beer first, okay? So we produce 9,000 barrels of beer. We conserve a ton of water. The industry average is 7 barrels to 1 for a barrel of water to make 1 barrel of beer. We are consistently in the 3, even a little bit below 3 barrels to 1. So we do an amazing job of just saving water. Then we're faced with our brewery waste stream. Our building is located over the town aquifer. The entire town of Stowe gets their water from this aquifer. So that's a very big deal. So when we built this building, actually our floor drains are double-walled stainless steel floor drains with leak detectors, so that if anything is leaking out of this building and into the ground, we know about it before it ever happens. It's super important when you're dealing with waste like this. So a big part of what we do, first and foremost, that most breweries do, because you're forced to by your municipality, is side streaming of your waste. So our Whirlpool hops, our yeast, last runnings that come out of the mash, all of these things that have a high BOD load, which is biological oxygen demand. That's kind of what the food that goes to the bacteria in the wastewater treatment facility. That can wreak havoc. So we take it upon ourselves to do as much as we can before the town of Stowe ever has to deal with it. We work in cooperation with the Vermont Technical College. So there's a local company, Grow Compost, which is has been such a pleasure to watch this business grow alongside of us. They recently, in the last couple of years, were able to take the profits of their business and buy a dedicated pumper truck specifically for our brewery waste. So 5 days a week, they come, they pump our liquid waste out of here, and they transport it down to Randolph, Vermont. And our waste stream feeds a biodigester at that college campus and produces electricity for their college campus. So that's a tremendous thing. But we're still left with what goes down the drain. So when we're spinning tanks, we're cleaning tanks, inevitably you're going to have waste stream go down these drains, and that's something that we have to deal with. From the start, Jen and I, when we designed this building, this was a must-have. The wastewater treatment facility that we built had to happen. So we built that into the cost of doing this business. It was not cheap, but boy, oh boy, was it worth it. So I'm going to take you in there really quick, but I just want to give you a quick statistic without your eyes glazing over here. So we do this side stream project in Waterbury as well, where we make heady topper. Over there, when we have all that side stream and it goes out the door to the digester, that's where it ends, because we don't have our own wastewater facility over there. But the state monitors that. And we're not allowed to exceed 65 pounds of organic waste in a day. Through our side streaming project, we get that down to about 20 to 30 pounds a day, which is great, but we knew we could do better. So we built this facility here. With our new facility, come on in. It's too bad you can't smell this, because no smell-o-vision yet, but boy, oh boy, it's ripe in here at times. So come on in. It's a little loud in here, so I'll keep it quick. This reactor behind me takes that waste stream from that 20 to 30 pounds a day that goes out of the building. We actually discharge less than 0.1 pound of solid waste out of this stream into the town of Stowe's wastewater facility. Less than 0.1 of a pound, considerably less than a 3-bedroom home. So this is something that we take great pride in, because that water that we put down the stream is actually diluting all of the other businesses in town that put their waste into the town system. So we're very proud of that fact. We've received awards from the state for it, and we are an open book for breweries to come in here and learn about this technology and see it happen in person. So now, come on with me. That takes care of our organic waste. You know, I won't waste time talking about our grain. Everybody sends their grain off to farmers for the most part. Of course, we live in Vermont, so that's the way to do it. But a big passion of ours is what actually is going to leave this building and go to a landfill. So we have an amazing program here that every one of our employees is fully on board. So it's so multifaceted. Our grain bags, these polyethylene woven grain bags, are incredibly difficult to recycle. If breweries are throwing those into recycling bin, they are not getting recycled. It has a little recycling stamp on them, but most recycling programs in states all around this country can't handle a product like that. So we have begun our own program, and we have been collecting our bags and containing them in a big shipping container. And when that shipping container is full and it's commoditized, then it can actually be recycled. So this is not like a quick ticket, oh, just throw it in the box and off it goes. It takes long-term planning to make these things happen. All clear, stretchable plastic. You know, when you're wrapping pallets of beer and you get your barley in on pallets and it's all wrapped in this stretch wrap, for years, that was just going into a dumpster because we did not know what to do with it and couldn't find a thing to do with it. So we now gather all clear, stretchable plastic, and that goes to a company that turns that into Trex, into artificial decking for people's, for your outdoor deck. So we sequester that plastic into something that you upcycle it into a product that is going to hold that for a long, long time. Our strapping, our green strapping gets chipped and recycled. And really, at the end of a day, it's impressive what is actually in our dumpster. We have a tiny little dumpster out back. And before this stream started, I went out and took a peek in it. So our trash gets picked up on Mondays. I would say it's about 25% full, if that. You're talking about bags of trash from bathrooms and stuff like that that you really can't recycle. But aside from that, we are taking care of everything that comes out of this place. It's a daunting task. And if you ever think about it all at once, it can seem extremely discouraging and like, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to take care of this? It is time and attention, and it's motivation. You need to be motivated to do these things. As Jen touched on, this could not be more important to us and to every one of us. So in the sake of saving time, we're going to make our way back upstairs. On the way past, we're going to be going past our walk-in cooler. I just like to point this out. It's a cool thing because I'm sure we got people that are from parts of the country that it's not cold in the wintertime, but our walk-in cooler from November until about April is cooled by the outside air. So it's called a free air system, so that when the temperature outside gets low enough, the compressors shut down, the vents turn on, and we keep this entire walk-in cooler cold with our nice cold Vermont air.
I think we have to go outside. We have.
Oh. I guess that it's more of a bomb shelter in that cooler. Our signal broke out. If you didn't catch that, our refrigeration is from November till April is provided by Mother Nature. So we don't have to burn any electricity to keep our beer cold. So come on back upstairs. We're going to get into it more with Q&A, but we could talk about this for 3 hours. When you start talking about sustainability, it's all the obvious things, the nature, things like that, energy conservation. But it goes even deeper with sustainability of your employees, your healthcare, your mental health. All of these things are, essential to what we do. So, come on up. One thing I forgot to tell you about on our way past, our solar program here at the Alchemist. So, our Waterbury Brewery is 100% solar powered, and we built a storage barn out back, which gave us more roof surface. And we knew we didn't need that power, but we installed the solar panels anyway. And the cool thing about it is that we dedicate that excess power and we earmark it to the Waterbury Senior Center, so we pay their electricity bill with our solar power. Here in Stowe, it's a much bigger project. So we have the first parking lot based.
The first and largest parking lot canopy installation
In the state of Vermont. So we produce over 50% of our electricity needs here at the Stowe Brewery just with the solar panels that are out in our parking lot, with the goal that we will then buy into a solar farm and offset the rest of our electrical needs. So I know we're going to be running out of time quick. So we're going to try to settle back in here and start answering some questions that people might have for us. Can you hear? Do you hear the audio, Jen?
I can, yeah.
Do we have a way of pulling up people's questions? Do you see anything?
Do you have dedicated staff to manage the sustainability, or is it a part of everyone's job? That's an interesting question. We don't have one specific person that works on sustainability. John and I spend a lot of time on sustainability, working closely with all of our team members. We do have a full-time wastewater manager who does a lot of work both with our water and our solar. A lot of people that track our metric, our kilowatts per hour, people tracking all of our different metrics, everyone really pitching in on the waste reduction and the water reduction. So it's really a group effort that everyone takes part in.
Yeah, and of course, all of that is spearheaded by Jen and I. But yeah, we've been in this a long time, and we've surrounded ourselves with some really passionate and talented people, and that's really what it takes. It'd be hard to just have a sustainability expert because, in general, the kind of people that work for us are environmentally conscious, and so they're already kind of bringing those concerns to the job with them. Which is wonderful because that's an important thing. Those are the kind of people that we like to employ. It's essential.
But I would love to share the story that our full-time wastewater manager, Steve Miller, is absolutely amazing. And he was in the brewing industry for years. We brewed with him at the Vermont Pub and Brewery years ago. And he actually left brewing because he's an environmentalist and impact really bothered him. So he came back to work for the Alchemist because he was so excited to work in this industry again and actually make positive impact. So that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and boy, geez, we can't sing the praises of Steve Miller enough. The work that he has done in that wastewater treatment room is a thankless job, that's for sure. But to have somebody that's so talented and so passionate about that, it was key. And it shows. Because that system is dynamite.
And we haven't always been able to do the things we do. We didn't have the human capital, we didn't have the financial capital, but we always wanted to do the best we could. So even way back at the pub when we were barely making ends meet, we were saving our food scraps for compost or to feed pigs, buying biodegradable packaging to go instead of plastic packaging. So there are always small things every business can do to minimize your impact.
Oops.
More questions there.
Yeah, I lost your screen there. Okay, I'm really curious about the economics of all the recycling. Is the cost excessive? Do you manage to break even? Well, really, the cost of recycling, I don't know if we would even have pegged that. We haven't identified those costs to that extent because it's such an essential part of the business. That just wouldn't really compute with us would it make financial sense to do it? We do it. It's just part of the business plan. It's like if we had been worried about the payoff on our wastewater treatment facility, you wouldn't do it, because you're not going to make that money back. But it is an essential part of who we are and what we do. And so it's just kind of an assumed cost.
Yeah, and I think it's the cost of not doing anything that's really so scary. And again, not just for us, but for our entire industry. We all need to. We have a responsibility with the resources we use, the natural resources, from the water to, the power, malt, hops, everything.
Okay, the next question. I'm really curious about the, oh, no. Here we go. What are the things smaller breweries can do to improve their sustainability?
Well, I touched on that briefly. I think there are all sorts of things we can do to take small steps, whether it's composting and recycling or side streaming waste so that it gets recycled properly. But the biggest thing, people always say, gosh, this is really great what you do here in Stowe, but we can't afford $1 million investment in water. We can't afford a full-time water manager. And that's fine. Everyone can and should side stream. And thankfully, most of us are, because we're made to. But we all really need to think about what's going down our drain. And I think that is the most significant step that any brewery can take, small or large.
And we started small too. I mean, we were a 60-seat brew pub for 8 years. And when you're anybody that's in that business, you know how stressful that is and how that hamster wheel just goes and goes and goes, and you're running on that wheel, and it's like, oh gosh, how can I make time to think about compost? Well, it's just one more ball that you got to juggle up in the air, and you start small. Again, when I said you think about these big things, and it can seem overwhelming and it can seem daunting, but you just have to take it in little bites. It started early on, of course, with just recycling and composting our food scraps at the restaurant. We worked with a local farmer, and he would collect our food scraps for his pigs. And that alone took so much waste out of our waste stream, and the disgusting mess that is your dumpster out back of your restaurant. It was overnight, the improvement there. And now here in the state of Vermont, composting is required by law, and it just started in July. When we were deciding all of this, we had a guy come in and make a presentation to us at the pub, and he told us a statistic that really blew my mind, and Jen's, that 50%, over 50% of what goes into this country's landfills is compostable food waste. 50%. So when you're driving on the highway and you see those giant mounds and these landfills that have pipes sticking out of them, collecting methane and everything else, that can be reduced. That can almost be eliminated if people collectively would get on board with something like this. I think it is a societal thing. It is a waste thing. It is you need to be accountable for what you do in this world. And I think a lot of people put on their blinders and glide through it, and they don't stress it. But if you don't stress it, things aren't going to change. Next question. So if you come in close here, Glenn, because I lost Jen's feed here. How do you handle the extra waste that is not sent downstream? Is it removed via other means or consumed in the reactor? Okay. Well, you mean, I would assume that what you're talking about is the waste, the concentrated waste that is stripped out by the wastewater treatment room. Yes, we have a bulk tank in that room that had we spent more time in there, that's part of the tour. That is called sludge, high strength sludge. So the action of that process strips that out of the water so that we can collect it. That then gets taken by Grow Compost and taken to the digester to produce electricity. Super high strength. The bugs at the reactor where they make the electricity love that stuff. So yeah, even our food scraps. I mean, That's part of what I touched on. Now it's required. So we have a food scrap bucket, and not a speck of food hits our garbage anymore.
But I would just add, as Steve Miller always says, no matter what you do to treat your water, no matter what you recycle, whatever you reuse, we're always going to have a byproduct that we have to take care of. So at the end of the day, no matter how we treat our water, there is something that we need to take care of responsibly.
Yeah, responsible disposal. All right, next question. How does the Alchemist manage water input to the brewery? Is the water so good for New England IPAs up there that they don't have to start from borrow?
Oh, that's great.
You guys are getting into beer technical questions, and that's fine. We do have amazing water here in Vermont. We treat it pretty simply. It comes out of the town well, which is only about 1,500 feet away from the brewery. We put it through a taste and odor filter, and that's it. Basically, all we're doing is stripping out any chlorine that might have been added by the town of Stowe, which is a common thing out of a municipality's water. But the bones of our water are really dynamite. Now, with that said, I've always said you can do amazing things with water pretty much anywhere, you know. And really, the water treatment for any style of beer, I don't know of many styles at all that you wouldn't do anything to that water, and with brewing salts and acidification. So we don't do anything that's too out of the ordinary. Next question. What's the next big hurdle to overcome in the beer brewing industry in terms of improving sustainability?
Packaging, for sure. You know, I think John and I have a really big dream to someday see our beer in something other than a can, whether it is some sort of biodegradable lined paper package. I think that's the big long-term goal that we would like to see in our lifetime. Aluminum, you know, people always say cans are better, they're more recyclable. You know, maybe they are. They're less dirty than glass, but they're not good. At the end of the day, you know, aluminum.
Still mining.
You're mining aluminum, and it's not good. And we don't fool ourselves. We never say cans are better than bottles. We just don't. So hopefully in our lifetime we'll see a better package.
Yeah, the packaging, the 4-pack toppers. You see a lot of movement on that. You see people thinking about it and understanding that A, it needs to happen, but B, if they do it right, they can make some money doing it. And quite often, that's the solution. It's hard for people to motivate to do something unless they can monetize it. And that's the sad truth. But it eventually works. You know, somebody is going to invent that 4-pack topper that, you know, you see some different versions, first takes out there, but eventually somebody is going to invent something that solves that problem. So, you know, we have confidence that that motivation and good old ingenuity will help us through a lot of these things. And, you know, you just got to keep forging forward. How do you ensure 100% buy-in into the programs, and do you re-audit your practices at all to check for any lacks in efficiency?
Yeah. Gosh. Well, you know, we do require buy-in from all of our employees, but it's a part of their job. It's very well defined. You know, everyone is required to recycle and side stream and compost their food. So it's really something people are very clear about when they start working here, and they're committed to it, and your job really depends on that commitment. What was the second part of the question? You know, we look at our metrics all the time, and as a certified B Corp, we get reassessed every 2 to 3 years, and we have to have improvement. So that really makes us accountable. Being a B Corp is a fantastic resource because you are accountable and you are forced to look at all of these different metrics, from the packaging you use to the vendors you purchase from, and just always improving and doing a better job. So I can't recommend the process more to aspiring brewers that want to be sustainable, but it's not easy. The work's not easy. You really got to put some effort in before you start the application and the certification process.
And it's, you know, doing these things, it's not cheap and it's not easy. We've been in business now since 2003. We've had a production brewery for 9 years, and we've had this new production brewery for 4 years. We still have a list of projects that we want to do. You can't just do these things overnight. You know, you're running a business at the same time, and we get that. We reinvest and have been reinvesting our money back into this business. Where a lot of businesses would be pulling that money out and just keeping it, we see the value of reinvesting into our business to keep moving forward and to keep pushing the envelope and making things better.
And not to get too philosophical here, but running a business isn't easy. John and I have really tough days, hard weeks, days, months, especially right now with the pandemic. The possibility of aluminum cans being in shortage. There are always things to stress about. And frankly, if it were about money, we wouldn't be here today. The money isn't that exciting. It has to be positive social and environmental change. That has to be what really drives us at the end of the day, because that's what's important, not the money.
All right, next question. Do certain beer styles and brews require more attention when it comes to sustainability during a typical brew day and fermentation cycle? There's different things that you got to worry about. From that question, I guess I would think that what you're talking about is, do certain beers produce more waste than others? Sure, anybody out there that brews beer can tell you that if you brew an imperial stout, you better be ready for it, because it's going to have a tremendous amount of blow off compared to other styles of beer. We have ways and means of adapting to that. Of course, we can't let that stuff go down our drain. You just can't. You can't let full strength yeast blow down your drain, because it will wreak havoc on our wastewater treatment facility. So that is part of the accountability thing that we were talking about before, and the buy-in of having our employees so aware of that. And it's interesting, because sometimes, I'd never say anything, but there are times when I watch people in there working, and they really are catching at times every drop. And I always, when I see that, it's like, wow, but they are listening. And I congratulate them. You thank them, because even more than I probably would. When you're working in there, of course, you're like, what's 10 ounces of yeast going down the drain? But I'll see these men and women, they care to that point where they're actually worried about that little bit going down the drain. So it's good. We're succeeding here.
Oh, next question.
Have you ever looked at the sustainability of your distributors? Well, that's an interesting question, because up until really just recently, we distributed pretty much all of our beer. When the pandemic came, we did decide to shut down our own distribution company. And we do work with Craft Beer Guild of Vermont here now. And we do talk about sustainability with them a lot. Didn't they come on board with some of our sustainability efforts recently, or we're working together on?
We do have, I don't think there's anything specific that we could peg like that, but of course we have conversations with our suppliers, and they come in here and they see what we do, and it inspires them to start thinking about that as well. Again, you set the example, and you hope that people start paying attention. As for that, also plays back into what Jen was saying about the B Corp certification. Your suppliers have to have a certain amount of accountability for you to maintain your status as a B Corp. So yeah, we're constantly working and trying to improve.
We are, and I will just add that having specific criteria for our vendors and how we choose our vendors and our distributors, we are working on that. That is a constant project that we're working on. We have questions and criteria, but at the end of the day, when things like the pandemic are sprung on us, it's business first, and we found the distributor that was right for us, and here we are today. We're going to keep moving along on our criteria and improving how we pick our vendors and our distributors.
All right. Do you encounter any Glenn, I think I might need your readers here. Do you encounter any barriers to becoming a B Corp? Was everyone on board all along? I mean, Jen, that is.
I assume you mean were our employees on board, and I don't think we opened it up to them. We started the certification process just to see if we could be certified. I will say we opened in 2003. We didn't start the certification process until 2016, so we had already done a lot of the groundwork. We have a lot of new breweries reaching out to us or about to open up, and they say, how do I become a B Corp? And that's a really tough answer because you can't just decide to be a B Corp. You really have to do some work first. With that said, I think everyone should go to the B Corp website and look at the assessment, because just looking at the assessment gives you a really good idea of some of the things to think about as you build your business, and give you some really good goals, from your vendor relationships to how you treat your employees to all of your environmental initiatives.
It gives you a real roadmap on what you are faced with and the decisions you're going to have to make, and the changes that you have to make to your business as it exists. We've had very famous, very established breweries come to us asking about our process of becoming certified as a B Corp, and
it's a tough process.
It's a tough process.
It is. It's a long process. It's not just writing answers. It's really coming up with data to back up the work you've done, showing the benefits and writing everything that you provide for your community. So there are real metrics, and, you're accountable. So you got to do the work.
Okay. Next. How does waste reduction and sustainability factor into the consumer experience, if at all, both for your tap room and for packaged beer? We find that our customer base is very, very much interested in sustainability and our social footprint. I think that young people today, makes me sound so old.
You are old.
That's great. There's a generation of people in their 20s that a lot of times older generations like to kind of talk down about younger generations. But let me tell you, we've had conversations with people in their 20s that are incredible people, that are more focused on these things that matter so much to us than any other generation has been before. They are faced with challenges that we were not as when we were that young, between climate change and instability in the world. There's a lot of stress for a young person nowadays, and it gives us great hope when we see this passion in young people and they pay attention. They support breweries that have that, they identify with brands and with breweries. And if you're not firing on all cylinders and really being genuine, people pick up on that. And that is part of what goes into it. And so we're very thankful and fortunate that we do have customer base that pays attention to that what we do does not go unnoticed. Mm-hmm. Jen?
Yeah, and I would just add, as far as the experience goes, I think 90% of the people that come in here, when they see what we're doing with our water, when they get their food and their beer on our lawn during an event, everything is biodegradable. When they see our solar, it makes them feel good about drinking our beer. People want to know where their food and their drink is coming from, and they want to be responsible. And I think it makes the experience just so much more enjoyable for all of us.
And it'll send them to their next brewery with those questions. Well, I was at the Alchemist, and they do this with their wastewater. What do you guys do with yours? It's that peer pressure is a very effective tool. Next one. You mentioned physical and mental health of your employees. As a managing figure, how do you draw the line in the sand as to when to step in and tell them to take a break or direct them to help?
It's interesting. Look over here.
Here, if you look over my shoulder here, you see all this exercise equipment. Jen and I are passionate about every aspect of sustainability. And I touched on it briefly coming up those stairs. it goes so much further beyond just the environmental and money sustainability. When you're talking about owning a business and being responsible for 42 other people, their careers, their salaries, their health care, how they can take care of their families. I explained it to my son when he was very young. I said, imagine a calm, smooth pond, and you throw one rock out into that pond and you watch those ripples expand through that water. I said, every action that you do in your life is stone into that water. You are creating ripples through life. Are those going to be helpful or harmful? We committed to being on the helping side of things. So when we offer fitness classes to our employees, we understand because we've been there. We have worked our fingers to the bone over 25 years, and we fully understand what it feels like to work a 12-hour day and come home exhausted and wiped out, and the last thing you want to do is go exercise at that point. So we took that upon ourselves to create something to take that out of people's lives so they can get healthier while they're at work. They can feel better about themselves. They can feel better physically, which is couldn't be tied more to your mental health as well. So we try to really approach it from so many angles, between offering healthy food, our health and wellness program. We offer individualized programs that if there's something that you're facing as a challenge, we have ways to bring that up to people. And I just want to see this question one more time. Managing figure, how do you draw the line as to when to stop telling them a break? Well,
Mandatory stretching.
Oh, there you go.
We have mandatory stretching with our wellness director. So throughout your shift, especially if you're in the brewery, you're going to be forced to stop and do a group stretch. And then, mandatory breaks as well.
And, we work in the alcohol business. And I'd be lying if I said we didn't have incidences in the past that you have to deal with. And those are the not so fun times of being an employer. When you see self-destructive behavior, we try to really stay on top of that. We recognize it, we see it, we try to be very understanding of it as well, because people are passionate about what they do, and here you are surrounded by alcohol 7 days a week. So that's part of why we do the health initiatives. We get it. I've been at a point in my life where I was drinking too much beer. And it's a spiral. You start to feel terrible about yourself. You start to put on weight. You start to get out of shape. Your mental acuity, that all decreases. And next thing you know, you're just like, you're generally not happy. So it's a tough thing. And we're very much aware of it. And we try to create a healthy atmosphere.
Next question. That was the last question. Any comments for everyone?
Oh, great. Well, geez, just like that, our hour is up. How do we want to wrap it up? When things calm down and we get to start bringing people back into our brewery, we will continue to strive to educate, engage, bring people in, bring them into the conversation, and hopefully send them out of here a little bit more inspired than they were when they walked in, so that they walk out being surprised that they didn't just come in and buy beer. They actually came in and they came out having learned something, and maybe hopefully taking something with them to their lives.
Yeah, we're so fortunate to be in this industry. It's a challenging time. But I really think if we all work together and share our resources and co-learn together and figure out a best path forward to make our industry cleaner and more sustainable, we're going to have a better and brighter future. So we look forward to sharing everything we know. Reach out to us with any questions. We're always happy to share. When the pandemic goes away, please visit us. We'd, again, be happy to give you a tour. We're here. We're open.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Go Steelers.
Thank you.